Welcome to the first video in the iPad Essentials video series. This series is going to help give you an overview of the iPad with its functions and give you some general tips to get comfortable using the device. In the video series, we will also explore how to use apps in a whole group setting, and we'll look at how apps can be used to support the skills, the creation type projects that you do in your classroom, how to explore content, and how to manage your workflow. There will be some apps that you will absolutely love to use with your students, and we encourage you to test those out ahead of time. The first video is really looking at how the iPad can be used as a teaching tool and as a student tool. So as a teacher, you will probably be using the device as your own learning tool and to increase your productivity, help you connect with other educators, create work that can be used in the classroom, and collect student data and look at performance. The student use of the iPad through its interface is going to be phenomenal. The productivity, the connection that you create with it, and the personal reflection that you encourage is going to blow you away. First of all, to show you just exactly how this video capture is occurring, you would like to be able to use your iPad on the big screen. You want your students to see your iPad, what you have on it, and there are many formats that you can use. Three of the most common ones that I have used in my own classroom is through the hardwire approach using a VGA cable. I have also used the Apple TV method by running or mirroring my iPad with my Apple TV. And finally, this is the way that I'm currently using my iPad to stream or mirror with my my laptop, and that is through a software program called Reflection. It's now been changed to Reflector software. This software is one that you find on the web. You download to the computer that is hooked up to your projector, and your iPad essentially mirrors, or your iPhone mirrors, to the computer. It can be a Mac, it doesn't have to be, it could be PC as well. But whatever works for your school, for your IT department, is what you're hoping to do. But you essentially want to take and be able to mirror as many iPads as possible on your big screen. This is a shot showing two iPads, both using the same app. It's called Solar System by Marcus Chown, and the app was being used to showcase inner planet and outer planet layers. One student's iPad was reflecting or mirroring to the projector, while the other iPad was mirroring to the projector as well. So in essential, we had everyone looking at the same two areas at once, and this is a phenomenal way to connect your iPad to the projector. As we go through some of the different tips in this first video, you may have an aha moment where you say, oh, I never knew I could do that. And that's great. That's what we're looking for. You may have one of those moments where you say, oh, I already knew that. And those are the moments where you pat yourself on the back. That is cool because you're ahead of the game on that one, and that's what you're looking for. But the overall message with this first video is that playing is key. You have to develop a comfort with your iPad, and so developing that comfort when you're playing around on your own is going to make your time with your iPad in front of the students even better. So anything that we show you here, I'm hoping that you'll go back and really, really look at it closely. The first thing, just to be familiar with your iPad as far as hardware goes, your iPad has a front camera, it has a little status bar here, and it has all your apps loaded on your screen, and your multi-touch screen. You're flipping through everything, and then this is your home button. You're going to press it like a different number of times to get it to react a couple different ways. This shot will show you kind of what the back of your iPad looks like. You have another camera, which is wicked cool because then you can go ahead and have the camera facing either way to take video and picture shots. You have a side switch for increasing the volume and decreasing the volume. Oh, that's directly below it. Your side switch will be used later on if you want to use it as an instant mute button, or if you'd like to use it the way I use it, which is to go ahead and lock the screen into one direction, so that as you're walking around the classroom and your iPad is mirroring to the projection screen, you do not want it to be flipping landscape to portrait, and making everyone a little nauseous on the way. That's in the settings that we'll look at that. You do have a headphone jack up at the top, which can also be used if you have headphones that have a microphone attached to it. You have your dock connector, which is also where you will, plug in to charge your iPad, and you have your speaker there. When you are looking at the actual ways that you can use some of these buttons, here's a really quick tip that some people may know, some people may not, but in order to capture something that is on your screen, whether it is a website, a quick picture that you pull up, maybe you just want to take a screenshot of the page, of the iPad screen, if you hold down the screen capture, the top button and the home button at the same time, you should hear a camera sound and a picture will be saved of whatever is on your screen, and it goes into your photo library. It's automatically stored there for you. So having this ability, when you are looking through some websites, maybe to save some text on the screen capture buttons are incredibly helpful. You're also going to see here that when you are when you're using your iPad, you are going to want to spend some time ahead of time to personalize it. You want to organize your apps so you have the most important apps available to you. And I'm going to start mirroring my iPad so that you can see how I have organized just on my own iPad, how I have some things set up. So right away, you can see that I have a personalized background there. And that is really, really easy to do. You can go into your photos, and there's a couple different ways you can do this, but one way, if I want to go ahead and change the background, is I can open up a picture that I would like to have as my background, and could be a picture that I've drawn on the iPad. It could be a picture that I have taken from the internet. But regardless, it's a picture that's available, and this is a picture that a student actually was drawing in class. And I can go ahead and click the button that looks like an out. It looks like an arrow going outward. And whenever you have a photo, you can mail it, you can tweet it, Facebook it, print it if you have a printer that's available, or the option to use to change it to your background is use as wallpaper. You can set it as your lock screen and your home screen, or both, and then that way that is the picture that will show up in the background. I happen to like my picture, so I'm going to keep it the way it is. But you can also see in this view, I'm going to open it back up again, you can also see that my desktop is arranged into some folders. I have apps that kind of go together. I have apps for recording. I have apps for connecting, like Skype, Twitter, Edmodo, blogging. I also have apps that are used for book building. Some of these apps we're going to go over in this series. But I've organized the apps into the content. For me, physical science versus life science versus earth and space science. So one thing that you're going to notice is you build up quite a library, and to have hundreds and hundreds of apps just floating around your desk, the background there is quite discouraging. So what you can do is you can take an app and you can put it together with another app by simply holding your finger down on it till they start shaking. The black X, or the white X and the black circle would delete this app. So I'm not necessarily sure that I want to do that, because you'll notice that deleting the app is going to delete all of its data. Now, if I don't have any data that I'm worried about, it's not a big deal, because I could always download it back from the App Store. Once I've purchased it, I've purchased it. Even if it's a free app, we call it a purchase. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cancel that. But I am going to go ahead and what I call marry the apps. I'm going to put them together into their own little home, and you'll see a folder just popped up. They're very kind, and they give you a suggested title for that folder. I'm going to recommend that maybe you go ahead and name them something that means something to you. But this is how you would make a folder. So now, anytime I would have that folder, they're all together there. Now, if I forget what folder I put my app into, because you can see I have many folders here, and let's say I just want to go ahead and look for a specific app. All I did was I rolled back a screen by swiping across the screen, and let's say I want to look up an app that you're going to be working with later on in the series, which is called Draw Free. So I'm starting to type in draw, and it's starting to see everything I have on my iPad related to drawing. And it could be an email, it could be a web search, it could be just a note that I had written in the Notes app, but then the app itself will show up. And as I open it up, there it is. So just a few things just to get you started on your iPad. You know, you're going to play around with these apps, you're going to play around with the functions, you're going to personalize it, and the more you do this on your own, the better off you're going to be with your students. But you've got some screen capture fun to play around with. You have some organizing of those apps that you've been downloading like crazy. You also know now how to do what's called the spotlight search to find the apps once you've made them. And you know how to make folders. I also showed you really quickly how to go ahead and make a background. And one last thing, to show you how you can see some of the apps that you've been working on, if you use your 4 fingers and slide up the screen, you're going to see that some of the apps show up that you've been most recently working with my settings, my photos, and my drawing tool. This is helpful to possibly see what the last thing a student may have been working on, or for you to multitask. If I'm working in my photos, but then I need to switch pretty quickly into my drawing, I can go ahead and switch over to the drawing app, and of course the screen just went black. But really what you're working with here is the ability to go back and forth in between the apps by just clicking on that button at the bottom. So scrolling down here to see everything you've worked with. The settings, roll it back up, versus the drawing app, and so on. This is going to encourage some multitasking going on. The settings, just a quick tip here. This is kind of like your, this is like home base for you. So if you're looking to change something with the wallpaper, change something with the sound, I mentioned using this lock rotation. That is in my general settings. These are all my general settings for the iPad tailored for me. If I want to use the side switch to mute it, I check that, and that means that anytime I flip that switch, it instantly goes to mute. I happen to like lock rotation so that if I'm trying to keep it steady, keep the screen from swaying back and forth, I can throw it onto that really quickly. But this is what I would recommend. Going into your general settings, looking around at this information, checking out just some of the app features you have along the left side. And until we talk again on our next video, I would go ahead and practice the things that I've shown you and explore the settings a little bit.